HCHB is proud to sponsor the Last Visit First podcast, which explores the complex issues faced by today's home health and hospice providers.
In the spotlight today, Chief Revenue Officer Hannah Pearson, explaining how HCHB uses technology to connect people.
One of my favorite phrases is relationship architect. The focus is about the client and building the right community, the right fabric of community around our customers, making sure that from the very bottom to the very top, they had a resource and a contact to reach out to with any problems, and that we could connect them quickly and expeditiously to the right resource. That's where the client success team was born, and we touch people at every level of the organization.
Welcome to the podcast. A dear friend of mine, very blessed to have the president and CEO of Homecare Homebase. One of the hardest jobs, I think, in the nation, and Luke's figured out how to manage it. So welcome to the podcast, Luke.
Man, thank you, Tom. And I don't think I would ever imagine hearing those words out of your mouth because I just remember back when you hired me. So I feel humbled, honored, maybe a little nervous to even talk to you this morning. So don't throw me any curveball.
I won't throw you any curveballs. Don't be nervous at all. And man, what a great hire that was back in the day. I remember we hired you. I think you were running a call center back at in AT&T when your resume came across my desk, and you'd may have had a couple other jobs there. And we're like, man, if this guy can figure out how to keep us happy at AT&T over our cell phones, then surely we should have him in Homecare Homebase. And what a success. Tell us a little bit about your history, your career. Who are you? Your family. Let people know who you are, Luke. I think it's important.
Yeah, no, great question. And Tom, I don't know if you remember, but when you hired me, it was the summer of 2013. I'll never forget. You asked me a question. You came in, you love everybody. I love, your presence. I felt easily comfortable with you, but you said something to me. I'll never forget. You said, Luke, why do you like to lead? And you got real serious, and it made me kind of reflect on, I was like, I love people. I know what it means to be a good leader, and I know what it means to be a bad leader. I had some really good examples and then also some really bad examples, and you loved that answer. And I think from that point on, it became an instant friendship. So I appreciate your mentorship and your guidance. But, I think my story is I always tell people I'm a little bit of a mutt, right? I didn't stay all the way in healthcare. I started out logistics, very young age, got a leadership position, and moved over to the payer side. It was a self-insured healthcare markets is what it was called. And I led a account management and a call center group. Then I followed a mentor to do a little bit of Wall Street with Lincoln Financial Group. But that was just a blast. Got to talk to, people like, Jimmy Carter and Adam Sandler's and write letters to them. But, then I got caught up in the whole subprime market mix back in 2008, and found myself at AT&T, where we worked on some cool projects like 4G. I know it's 5G nowadays, but it's amazing some of the new technology that's out there. Their UVerse product, their TV product, and cut my teeth on some technology. And then this little company called Homecare Homebase called me up, and I thought, home care who? I've only worked for Fortune 200 companies, and I went and met April and Tom and Jim and Matt Posey and all those guys, and I instantly fell in love just with the mission and the vision. And I thought, man, I want to take a shot at this. So I'm so appreciative that you took a chance on that guy back in 2013, because it has been a ride.
Yes, and how many different jobs have you had at Homecare Homebase now? I think you climbed the ladder pretty fast.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of client services, and then moved over, did more operations, and then got the commercial role. So got sales and marketing, and then ultimately got the call to lead Homecare Homebase, which was humbling and honor. I was honored, something I always wanted to do, but then when you're like, I have to follow in the footsteps of April and Tom and, people like that, it's also a little scary. There's been a couple of nights that maybe I didn't go to sleep like I used to, but yes, it's been fun.
That's wild. Yeah. Well, congrats on the promotion. Yeah, well deserved. And everybody always tells me as I left in 2016 and kind of went out there, everybody said that, Luke Rutledge is the face of Homecare Homebase. And that's a hard job. I know it is. It's a really hard job. Tell us about Homecare Homebase. What do you do? I mean, most of these listeners are probably your customer and your user, but you guys have grown. Tell us about that. Like it's really grown, taken off, and I'm really proud of what you've created, as well as we left you a little bit of a mess, and then you solved that, and you continue to grow the business. How do you do it?
Yeah, so Homecare Homebase is that electronic medical record, electronic health record that's out there for the home health, hospice, private duty, and personal care space. And so, it's funny. I was thinking back on this, Tom. I think when I joined, we had like maybe 15% market share,
15, yeah, 17.
like that. And then today, we are now up to 47% on the home health side and 45% on the hospice side. And 2020 is always hindsight, right? You think about all the things that we went through. I mean, there was times, right, where we were fighting in the middle of the office about what feature we were going to put in, or what priority we were going to make out there, or what customer we were going to go get. And it just we delivered great software, and the market really took hold of it. We always kept the clinician really in mind. It also has this operating model that you and April built, that you can hand anybody a staffing model and say, hey, this workflow pops to this position at the right time, and we know how long it should take. It helps you be compliant, get a claim out the door. All those things just really came together, and the industry just responded. And so it's been a great ride, and I could not imagine a different career helping a mission-based industry. I feel like I feel so excited waking up every day trying to build great software out there.
Yeah, and we always talk to the guests when we do this, and so thank you for that. It's awesome. But before we jump into the kind of the next question, tell us a little bit of the stats. So you're 46% of the market share. How many people really use it? I mean, it's in the 200,000 people right now that are logging in every day and seeking visits?
Yeah, so there's literally about 175,000 clinicians, and then on top of that, there's the back office too that are getting a claim out the door, or managing the branch, schedulers, intake. So that's another 100. So we're right at about 300,000. Of that 300,000, we're also seeing $27 billion of claims, both
Wow.
Medicare, non-Medicare, go out the door. And then that equates to about 125 million visits on an annual basis that flows through Homecare Homebase today. So it is amazing.
To think that a little software company that was created out of Prospect, Kentucky, and Dallas, Texas, is now doing that. It's unbelievable. One of the goals we had when I was at Homecare Homebase, back when Jim and April and I were there, is we wanted Homecare Homebase to become a resume item. Like, people on their resume, they would say Microsoft, Excel, or I know, QuickBooks, or I know this software, or Epic, or that software. And I said, we get all these resumes in, and we have to ask, do you have Homecare Homebase experience? And about 2007, we became a resume item, and we started getting resumes of people that said, I know Homecare Homebase. And that was always one of our goals. And I mean, you completely surpassed that now. What is the personal connection to home care and hospice? I mean, I know we recruited you, we got you on the team, but do you have any stories or personal connection that have really hit home with home health or hospice? Do you have one of those stories?
Man, I definitely have one of those stories. And, I would tell you it's extremely personal to me. So I didn't know this at the time when I joined Homecare Homebase, but, me and my wife were recently married. We have 3 kids, great boys, good strapping young man that we're trying to bring up in this world. We found, my wife was running on a treadmill one day, and her personal trainer said, hey, there's something going on with your gait. Your running is a little bit off. There's something going on. And so we started this whole journey down with geneticists and neurologists to find out what it was. And through that journey, it took us probably 7 years to finally find out what it was. But she slowly progressed from 1 walking stick to 2 walking stick to a walker, and ultimately to a motorized wheelchair, and raising 3 boys at the same time, which are a handful at times. And we today now have a neuro PT that comes to our home and does all the physical therapy right there on the device. And so it has become extremely personal to me, because I'm touching and feeling what a patient experiences throughout our nation, through all those all those patients that experience Homecare Homebase. And so it's something that keeps my wife going to be able to get our kids out the door for school and making sure she stays mobile. And man, I could not thank the clinicians of today that really make an impact on our nation and all the families that need this service today. So it's personal.
What a great story. I mean, you got, three of the hardest jobs there: taking care of your wife, taking care of your family, taking care of your kids. And it's not it's a challenging feat in today's world. And then you're running the largest, home health and hospice EMR in all of post-acute. So pretty wild, man. You got a lot on your plate. Talk to me about the culture. This is something you're always working on, but how do you keep your culture at Homecare Homebase, and what things are you doing? Is there something spectacular or, the honorary that you guys are working on?
Yeah, you know what? My fundamental principle on culture, really is you got to stay close to the customer. And when you stay close to the customer, if I ever feel down, I just go visit a customer, right? And I get in there at the heart of what they're doing, and I understand their problems. I make relationships. And I would tell you this is even internally at Homecare Homebase. Like if I'm feeling down, I go talk to employees, and it's amazing when you understand their story, what they're going through, and you make that real connection. There's just an extra step, extra little kick in your step to get up and go and work for that person and reach out to them. And so, I think it starts with the customer, it starts with the employees, and just making sure that you really connect with them every single day and help solve their problems and make them feel valued. So I would tell you that's kind of at the heart.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to me when I start thinking about some of the people that I knew and that we hired way back in the day that, they were Abilene Christian graduates that are around the industry and they're still at Homecare Homebase, or, they'll run into another company at some point. But I'm like Hannah is another good example. I mean, how long has she been there? Trish has been there 20 plus years. I mean, it's amazing. In today's world, to keep especially a technology company, to keep somebody there 20 years is pretty wild.
100%. There's like this list of right people, and it's even funny. I go to these conferences, and somebody will come up to me, and they'll be like, "Hey, Luke, hey, thank you so much for when you pushed me 10 years ago." And I'll be like, "Man, first of all, I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but and then instantly when they tell me their name, I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, I remember." And we sat in that coffee and we had that great conversation. But to be able to make impact on people's lives, it's just huge. So
yeah, I mean, April and I talked about this on the last podcast, but think about the number of people that we've put through college, or kids that went through college, or helped them pay off their student loan debts, or gave them a chance. And Homecare Homebase was known to give a lot of youngsters chances as they were coming out of college. It was something we built as an incubator, and I know you've continued that, and it's been amazing. You've impacted a lot of lives, so yeah, thank you for that for sure. Let's jump over to technology. Where are we going? There AI is all over the place. Everybody's talking about ambient listening. Everybody's talking about, how do we predict more? How do we make it easier for nurses to do starts of care? How do we make visit documentation faster? All those kind of things. So where's your vision? Where do you see this thing going in the next 3 to 5 years?
yeah, man, they could not ask for a better setup from a technology opportunity. There is so much opportunity. When you look at publicly traded companies and you look at the cost of goods sold that it takes to get to see a patient, get a claim out the door, that tells you right there how much opportunity there is. There's so much workflow, so much manual intervention. New AI is definitely going to help that. So let's talk real numbers. In Homecare Homebase, you can see today for home health side, it's like 2.5 hours to do a start of care. And it's not because clinicians are goofing around, right? It's literally because of all the regulatory, all the things to make sure that they stay compliant, COP, the conditions of participation, the OASIS, all the things that go into getting that start of care done. And making sure that they can stand up in court if they ever, got called to it. And we had to take that and put it in the software. Well, today with AI, scribing, ambient listening, there's a tremendous opportunity to take 30, 45 minutes out of that starter care, not reducing the in-home time, eyes on patient, but really being that army behind a clinician to make sure that they deliver the best care in the home at the most cost-efficient way. So I think we're super excited about that. And then you look at all the things it takes to make sure that the back office can get the claim out the door, whether it's scheduling, intake, rev cycle, There's so much automation that can happen through generative AI. And one of the core things that we always do at Homecare Homebase is we're never going to take the clinician or the expert that knows the regulation or knows what needs to be done. All we're going to do is populate it. And then what we use in technology terms is called human in the loop. And so I'd even say clinician in the loop. We may auto populate it and we may give you the tools that say, hey, these are the best options for your patient, or this is what you said. Do you want to validate that? Do you want to attest that this is the best pathway or the care that this patient should receive? And then you will either validate that or you'll say, no, I need to rewrite that or I need to have a different path. But it will always have the clinician, it will always have the expert in the loop. And I don't think that we'll have a AI bot that ever delivers care, because I think you always need to have that license, that clinician license at the center of it. So.
Yeah, when I started talking, and you and I were talking this week about this, and ultimately the goal is, how do I make the clinician's life as easy as possible? And I want you to, and we'll use the RNs, but PTs, STs, OTs, everybody has the same problem. How do I get you to want to do a start of care versus have to do a start of care? And that should be the goal, right? Now you have to do it. It's the number one scrutinized visit that you do. It's how you get paid. The OASIS is required to be edited. Everybody reviews your documentation. Everybody wants you to correct OASIS challenges. And then you say, okay, clinician, I need you to do 5 visits a day. And I want you to go read 200 pages on this patient to figure out what's going on with them. I want you to make sure you do this OASIS absolutely perfect. Take your time on it. You have 5 days from a notice of admission to get it done. And so we're asking you to rush, but we're asking you to be perfect. And there's all these tools out there that are now being developed and with large language models, which is amazing. There's all these tools out there that can help us do that faster. And I'm not saying replace your brain. I'm not saying replace what you're doing, but if I have 12 medications and I got to sit there and type in 12 medications, that's really time consuming. It takes 2 minutes a med, 24 minutes. It's a waste of my time. Why can't somebody take a picture and automate that? Or why can't you just read those to me and the system ought to do it? And so I know you're working on some really cool tools and with some of our sponsors up here, but it's super exciting that we can figure out how to make nurses want to do a start of care versus have to do a start of care. And then how do I get you that documentation quicker? That's really important for visit 2, visit 3, visit 4. Nana just got out of the hospital. I want to go to get a start of care as fast as I can possibly do. And so if Nana got out of the hospital and she's got to wait 3 days to get a start of care visit because we can't get a nurse out there and we can't get it through eligibility checks and authorization, we got to get all the orders from the doctor and all that. Nana just got out of the hospital in 3 days. She sat there with nobody. So we have to solve that. And I know it's primary to what you're working on all the time. So it's super exciting.
It made me cringe, right? Because somebody told me the other day, they're like, Luke, I went to an urgent care and I got in and out in like an hour and a half. And your start of care takes 2.5, 3 hours, sometimes if you're in hospice, right? And that made me cringe, right? It's just like, man, we have got to solve this problem for the clinicians, because if we want more care delivered in the home, which we have to have with the baby boomer population coming on service, we need to be able to have clinicians that don't want to go work for the hospital, right? That actually want the autonomous nature of home care, and we want to make sure that they love it. So we got to bring some of those tools.
For sure. And I think it also, on the recruiting and retaining side, we have to be able to recruit the clinicians that work in SNFs, hospitals, IRFs, ALFs, all those kind of things. And that most people that I've talked to, the reason, and I talk to a lot of clinicians that aren't in the business, is we're out trying to recruit people to work for us. The biggest complaint I hear all the time, or a clinician that'll come work for, the consulting side of my business will say, I'm tired of doing documentation. It's a paperwork nightmare. And I think the government's made that and scrutinized it. You talk to doctors and said, hey, doc, I need you to fill out this 96 question OASIS before you see every patient. They quit. Now I'm asking a nurse to get in a car, to go to an uncomfortable situation, possibly knock on somebody's door, get invited into their house, do wound care, do therapy, do whatever it is, do all your documentation. And then I ask you to leave and I need you to do that 5 times a day. It's really tough. And so I love that we're working on this. I think it's a big problem to solve. We got to make it better. And so we'll use that for recruiting and retaining clinicians. Let's not burn them out. Let's try to take care of the angels that they are. And if you've never done a ride along and you're on this podcast and you've never been in a nurse's car and done a ride along, you're missing out, because it'll change your life for sure.
Hey, this is Alex with Steno Health. Our mission at Steno is simple: to improve the quality of life of the post-acute care clinician. Steno uses ethical, compliant AI to capture visits in real time and turn natural conversations into accurate notes and forms. We are clinicians ourselves, and we've designed Steno to never feel like an extra click or an extra burden in your day. The goal isn't to replace anything, but to support you in every aspect of your day so you can spend more time with your patients and still have the energy and freedom to be present with your family at the end of the day.
This is Scott Beard, Chief Strategy Officer at Maxwell Tech. One of the biggest challenges in post-acute care is leakage, when patients leave your care and never come back, even when they need you the most. Many agencies hire staff to call patients after discharge, but the sheer volume means only a small percentage can actually be reached. That leaves gaps, drives up cost, and puts patients at risk. That's why we created NanaConnect Reach, a fully automated text-based engagement platform that follows up with every patient every time. Reach reduces the cost of staffing while delivering something no call center team can match: the automated reach of 100% of your patient population. Patients love the ease of texting, and agencies love the results. Engagement rates are consistently 30 to 40%, meaning patients are not only getting the messages, they're responding. With NanaConnect Reach, agencies lower cost, protect against leakage, and ensure no patient slips through the cracks. Learn more at maxwelltech.com or connect with us via email at sales@maxwelltech.com.
We'd also like to thank our episode sponsor, Levo, a company that's changing the way home health and hospice organizations approach staffing. Levo's platform streamlines recruitment by working around the clock in the background, helping agencies connect with the right candidates faster. It also uses data-driven insights to identify potential employee challenges before they turn into preventable turnover. And the impact is clear. Organizations using Levo have seen time to fill drop as much as 40% and retention improve by 20%, all within that first 6 months. To learn more, visit hellolevo.com and be sure to tell them that I sent you.
Speaking of that, I 100% agree. Like Tom is right. Like you need to go do a ride along. It will change your life forever. I still remember my ride alongs. I'm so glad, Tom, that you made Homecare Homebase do that at a time. But the one that really sticks in my mind is we're implementing HOV, right? Hospice of the Valley, great organization. Deb Shumway, if you're watching this, love you. I love your team. And we, in the middle of the implementation, we had to go to the IPU inpatient unit, and we were implementing the software, and I got to meet the parents and the parents that were struggling with, this dying child. And, I think it really touched me because I had really young boys at those times. I was like, oh my goodness, this is much bigger than software. It's also the clinician, and the clinician at the end of it, she had to document everything, and they had this I think it was like a grieving garden. And so they took me out to the grieving garden, and the clinician just, started to tear up, and it made me like start really crying and thinking about, just what we deliver on a day-to-day basis. But, it's amazing what clinicians do. And so that is my passion. My fire is like, how do we make these clinicians love their job? Like it's just seamless on the documentation side.
That's awesome. I used to say all the time, the only thing that I regretted was that everybody in the whole that worked for me at that company, they couldn't go to those experiences, right? I wanted them to all be there and have it with me. Like I don't, you want to make sure every single person, whether a QA, developer, on call center support, customer relations, admin, whatever you're at in the business, go have that experience. It kind of gives meaning for what you're doing every day. And it gives your job purpose. And I think in life, if we don't have a job that has purpose, what are we doing? I mean, you can get a paycheck and you can use it to go buy more beer or more rounds of golf, or pay your rent. But if you don't have a purpose, I mean, you spend more time at work than you do at home. So why not? Hey, let's talk about outcomes and quality. Where do you see this going? Medicare continues to do cuts to home health, give a little bit of a raise to hospice. They're implementing Hope. They're implementing New Oasis. They're scrutinizing fraud in our industry. And I know that's something that you guys spend a lot of time doing, is proving that, that the agency was actually seeing the patient. But where do you see outcomes going in the next, couple of years? And, I asked the question in 5 years to most people, but I don't think it's 5 years. I think it's going to change dramatically in the next year to 2 years with AI and LLMs and all that stuff. So where do you see them going?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit of an optimist. I think the reason why CMS is so hard right now on home health specifically is they got to get it right, and they got to get it right now, right? Because they see this wave coming, and there's going to be so much opportunity for home health. And so I think there's probably why they're a little bit scrutinized, but yeah, I think it starts to really open up with all the AI, with all the things, the outcomes that we're seeing. It seems like every time CMMI releases a new thing, they're like, magically we saved a bunch of money in all these states that we released as pilot, right? And so I think people are understanding the value of home care. We did a round in Capitol Hill. Every senator, every House representative, didn't matter if it was, Democratic, Republican, everybody had a story. It was so refreshing. Everybody knows the value. And I think everybody's trying to figure out like how do they unlock that value across the industry. So I'm super bullish just about this industry, where it can go, the tremendous opportunity. I think even payers, we have this, Optum just finished or got unblocked from the DOJ for LHC and Amedisys to combine that organization. Humana bought Kindred or Centerwell now. You're starting to see payers understand the value of home care. And I would tell you, they're bullish on it too. They're trying to figure this whole equation out because they see the value just as much. And so, back to your question, Tom, a little bit is like where you go. I think we're going to go lean into these payers. So whether it's Medicare, whether it's Medicare Advantage, they have this vision and they see the opportunity. We're going to really lean into them. We're not going to. I don't think we're going to be able to treat them like, oh, that's the payer and they're trying to nickel and dime me. And sometimes we have a little bit of a negative connotation. We need to think about, okay, what does a payer, think about? Well, they're thinking about RAF scores, right? Risk adjustment factors. They're thinking about HEDIS measures, which are quality. They're thinking about all these things that go into their calculations, and they're really trying to have the best experience for their insureds and their beneficiaries. So if we can lean into that and show them the value of home care, man, and it should be a tremendous unlock for the organization.
Yeah, I think it's an area that is growing very, very rapidly. On the few podcasts ago, we talked about this. When was the last time you saw a traditional Medicare advertisement, on TV? But I promise you, every morning I wake up here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and when I turn on the news to figure out what the weather is going to be to see if I can golf or not, it's all it is Medicare Advantage or Humana or United commercials or Centene. I mean, there's tons of them, right? And this is a prime population for that. So, but you don't see a traditional Medicare, and so I think we have to figure that out. We got to solve it. We're going to run out of Medicare money if we don't solve it. The cool thing is with the new LLMs and some of the stuff that's going on in the industries, people are living longer. They're getting home health and hospice, more often in their 80s, and instead of people dying at 78, they're dying closer to 80, but they're living longer and they're living a better quality of life. And then let's not forget, this is the place Nana wants to be. She wants to be at home with her remote control and her dog and her family and her refrigerator. And if you've ever spent the night in the hospital, you'll understand they're going to wake you up every 2 hours. They're going to give you medications you don't want. They're going to beeping noises all over the place, and then not just your room, but everybody's room around you. And it's hard to sleep. And most people know me. I'm a huge fan of taking care of your body and those kind of things. And sleep's the most important piece. But if you're in the hospital and you can't get sleep, what are you going to do? And so if you're trying to heal, get home as quick as you can, and got to have somebody there to take care of you. So it's going to be exciting.
Hey, I totally agree. You're the target market right now for Medicare Advantage, right? You're getting the mail.
God. I'm getting the mail. I got my, what is that card? The AARP card in the mail a couple years ago. And, oh man, Jennifer thought that was the best thing ever, is that that we got that card. Like, come on, really? She takes that very well. I'm the old one.
But you know what? It's funny you said that real quick, because I've been thinking about this too. I had the other day I had high blood pressure, like some meeting that was going on, and I think I took my blood pressure. It was crazy high. I probably won't even tell you, because if there's probably nurses listening, they'd be like, "Oh my goodness, you should have stroked out." But I went to urgent care, and they gave me some medicine. I went and did all this diagnostic, like, is there something wrong with my heart? Am I blocked? Or all this stuff, and there was nothing. I was like, okay, maybe I have hypertension. But with some of the technology that's coming out, even this risk adjustment factors, we know the patterns, right? We know if you're diagnosed with these things, we know that if you have these medications, we know what the next steps typically are in all these patterns. So I, as a patient, I want to know, what is my next step? What are the things that I should expect so I can prepare myself? I don't want to go spend all this money on those diagnostics and doctors guess. And so I think it's tremendous technology today to really lean in and help patients, help clinicians understand what's next in my journey.
And I was listening to the Rogan podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he had a doctor on there and was talking about the hardest thing now is to be a doctor in the LLM world, because everybody's out, looking at their disease process and asking it a lot of questions. And so they're coming in way more educated than they've ever been. They know what a statin is, and they know how to treat high blood pressure. And they know that, if you're overweight, it's going to be one of the problems, or eating too much sugar, or, drinking too much alcohol or whatever. So being a doctor now, you have a completely educated patient, or before you had to go to the library and check out an encyclopedia and read for hours. Now you can just say, hey, here's my signs and symptoms. Here's what's going on. And here's what they said. And give me all the treatment patterns. So I don't know if it's positive or negative for the doctors out there, because it's, the LLMs are most of the time perfectly right. They hallucinate a little bit, but you're getting a more educated consumer of medicine in every scenario. So that's awesome. Where do you see the future going? So are we going to go to a post-acute care unified payment? Are we going to, what do you think the future is here? How do we get more clinicians to go to the homes to see patients? How do we do, is it hospital at home? Is it PACE? Is it guide? Like, what do you visionize, and what are you looking at it from that perspective?
Yeah, I kind of look around globally and try to understand like what are the other countries dealing with, and how do they have their healthcare. And what's interesting is if you look at some of those, whether it's Australia, whether it's the UK, Canada, people are blending services. And so I think that's, if you look at the United States, everything's siloed, right? It's very much, okay, I got IRFs, I got SNFs, I got the ALFs, like, home health, hospice. And I think there's an opportunity to blend a little bit of that and really just look at the total, cost of care, the total journey of the patient. So I do think that there's a potential for that unified payment to really think through outcomes. I think there's so much waste, right? That's even, I just talked about it, right? I went to the hospital, or I went to the urgent care, and I started doing all this diagnostic, and I didn't even need to do that. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity to just really think about how do you do the total cost of care, that patient journey throughout the industry.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think you're going to see more blends between. I mean, we've seen it in our careers, as home health agencies are now in the hospice business, and hospice business are doing palliative, and home health's doing personal care. And so that longitudinal care path is something that I think we put the patient in the least common, or the most common but least expensive care setting, and provide them with the best possible care we can get. And I mean, again, nobody wants to call 911 and ride an ambulance to the hospital and go to the ER and wait hours and then get admitted to ICU and then have all this diagnostic testing. And so if we could figure out how to treat patients, quicker, faster, better in their home and heal correctly, then it will. I think the hospital at home models are interesting, as they're trying to, mimic a hospital would keep you at home. You got to deal with, the social determinants, food, water, oxygen, beds, all those kind of things, DME. They get expensive, but is that cheaper than running a hospital? I think there's a lot of different care models that, CMS really wants to look at. An area that I'm spending a lot of my time on is behavioral health now. And just like, there's so many nanas that are dealing with, depression or alcoholism or drug addiction and sadness and loneliness. They lost their spouse. Now they're at home by themselves. And we all know the stories and statistics around those. But, how do we treat those patients differently? And, it's crazy that Medicare still has the homebound status for a home health patient. And if I want to reinsure a patient because they're depressed or they're in alcoholism, which is a disease, and we want to continue to treat that, we can't, because we have to be homebound. And last thing you want is a depressed person to be homebound and stuck in their house by themselves with nobody else around. So there's a lot of challenges around the homebound status. And so there's a question coming here, but I know you spent a lot of time with the partnership. We were on that together as different companies, but working together, the Partnership for Quality Home Health, that rolled into the Alliance. I know you're spending time lobbying, and absolutely appreciate what you're doing there. You're a giant leader in the industry, and you have more data than anybody else in the industry. I know you've really worked hard to support them, but is there anything other listeners on this podcast can do to help us with, rate mitigation, or, with pushing CMS? I mean, like, what's your advice to those people?
Yeah, I would tell you, it is phenomenal to have, Dr. Steve Landers leading that up, along with, Scott Levy and, all the new team that's there. We now have a unified voice. Feels like we're really making a lot of progress. They're leaning into, partners like us, Homecare Homebase on the data side, as you mentioned. But I would tell you, don't sit on the sidelines, right? Don't let the bigs be the ones that are doing the rounds in Capitol Hill. Man, everybody's got to push. We're being outspent by all the big, pharma, hospitals. They're going to outspend us, but we have so much of a better story when it comes to outcomes. And then if you're a vendor, right, or a technology solution, also, man, you got to get in the mix, right? I mean, these are your customers that are dealing with this. So let's help share data, do the rounds at Capitol Hill. But I think everybody's got to be pushing in this direction for it to truly make an impact. we also need to get out the story, right? The patient stories. I think sometimes we get lost in the data, we get lost in the outcomes and the quality measures and all the things that CMS cares about. But what resonates is like your story, right, Tom? Nana and her experience, Kelly, my wife, and her experience. At the end of the day, those things, everybody's like, oh my goodness, my mom just had knee joint replacement surgery and PTK'd in my home, and she's up and at 'em, and I can't thank you enough. Those stories resonate like nobody's business. So take your story, make the comment, submit your comment letter, get active, because this is what's going to take for this industry.
Thank you for that. And by the way, Cole, please post a link to the Alliance in a grassroots push where you can put in your zip code and information and send letters to your congressmen and senators. And we need you to push on them, right? They're the people that can push CMS. They're the people that can say, hey, let's not make this harder. Let's make this better. And so we need you to do that. So if you're on this and you haven't done it, I'm sure you have, but if you have people on your team, like every nurse, every chaplain, every social worker, every aide should be writing that same letter. And they've made it really easy. So thank you to Dr. Landers and Scott Levy. Those two guys are leading the Alliance's effort and making sure that we're doing that.
Hey, Tom, one thing I forgot to mention, two things we did differently this year that we've done for all the clinicians that are on Homecare Homebase, we actually posted inside Point Care a link that helped them go comment.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
It was great. And so thank you for all the clinicians that went out there and commented. And then the other thing we did is at the administration level, we wrote a comment letter, and all that comment letter was supported around behavioral changes and all the access to care. We published those things directly to our customers and their specific data so that they could write their own comment letters using Homecare Homebase data. So
yeah, that's awesome. I read that. That was a great letter. Good job on that. I know that's hard to do. It takes a lot of time, and you're not getting paid anything to do it, but it's the right thing to do. Let's talk about the legacy. Tell me about the legacy that you want to leave. When you're done at Homecare Homebase in 25, 30 more years, maybe 40 more years, what do you want people to know Luke Rutledge for?
Yeah. So I'm real big about what you did for me, Tom, which is you got to be trained in the next layer, right? That are going to be taking the torch. So while I'm super excited and I want to make an impact on clinicians and all the things I said today, and we're going to go do that, there's the next AI thing, right? Or whatever it's going to be after this. And so I am in the mission fields to train the Hannahs of the world, right? The next generation that are going to take the torch and carry it on, because there's going to be more changes, and then there's going to be more waves of things that are going to be disruptors into our industry. And so I also think that's a big responsibility, because I think about when April bought that agency way back in the day, she didn't know what she was doing. She was a pioneer. Keith was a pioneer, right? And they built these big organizations that helped our nation. We got to be training the next generation that's going to be taking that torch. So that's kind of the thing. And people will be able to look back and say, yep, Luke made us sure that we were successful because we put these good leaders that have integrity, that cared about the customer, that cared about the patient at the end of the day.
That's really awesome. I'm very proud of you for doing that. That's amazing.
I don't know if you remember, right? That one day we walked out of a meeting. I can't remember, some type of like quarterly business review. And I said, Tom, I want to know as much about the industry that you do. And you said, one day you'll get there. And I was like, man, I don't think I'll ever get there.
Yeah, you're there.
Today, I think I'm there.
I remember when I left practice management, came into home care, and I was like, man, what are these guys doing? Like we didn't like Medicare on practice management, and we loved commercial insurance, and then you flip-flopped it. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand this business. It takes about 6 months to a year to figure it out, and then years of studying and working to be an expert in it. But I mean, value your opinion on everything now, and you are an expert. So you've learned it all. Now you got to. I mean, it's going to change again, right? I mean, the best part of this whole business is every year, and right around Halloween, we get a new final rule that changes the model or does something different. And we went from IPS to PPS to PDGM, now to HOPE. And I mean, it's going to continue to change. So that's the best part of it, I think, is if you quit learning in this business, retire, please, because it's game over. They're going to keep you on your toes and make you work harder every year. And we got to figure out how to do it better, faster, quicker. So thank you for all you do. Homecare Homebase is a great sponsor of this podcast. They've done an amazing job. I think most people that'll listen to this podcast are surrounded by it, either know it, trying to buy it, or have bought it. And I'm super excited for you, Luke, in that direction and vision, what you're taking the company. So glad you're in charge.
Thank you, sir. And then thank you to all those that are customers and helping us in the industry.
Hey, everyone, just really want to thank you for listening in. Luke's story is an amazing story. He's grown up at Homecare Homebase. These are the kind of things we want to do. We want to get people to come in, share their story, share their why, share what they're working on. Please subscribe. Please share. The more people that listen to it, the better we can get the message out. If we continue to have an increase in subscriptions and people that want to follow this, it'll help us get more of the right people on the show. We'll see you next time.